Tonight, I'll be camping outside in my Tesla Model 3 in temperatures as cold as minus 27 degrees Celsius or minus 17 degrees Fahrenheit. I'll be tracking the battery percentage used as well as the battery temperature, and just in general, staying in the car all night and doing things you might be doing while you're either camping for real or if you end up stranded. This would apply in both situations. This is going to be a really awesome test to see what the car is capable of. If you do want to sit there and watch movies or play video games, my wife will be joining me on this one, and we do plan to watch a movie and play games and connect a couple Xbox controllers to the system, so this should overall be a pretty useful test. The temperature is extremely similar to my Keep Warm video, and so this should be a pretty close to an apples to apples test as well, other than the fact that there'll be 2 people in the car for this one, but in the Keep Warm video, there was none. We're also going to both be sleeping in the car overnight, and so that'll be an interesting review on the comfort level, especially for someone like me who's 6'3", to see if it's any good, if it stayed warm enough, and just how comfy it was in case you're curious if you can camp out in a Model 3. I definitely plan to compare my results to the Keep Warm test, and we'll be putting up a little bit of a spreadsheet side by side up on screen towards the end to show the hours parked and the usage per hour and anything else that might be interesting, and so that'll be at the end. It'll be really cool to see which situation ended up performing better. Now keep in mind, this is a 2024 Tesla Model 3 long range all-wheel drive. I think with that, it's time to jump right in. I'll see you guys at the campsite. All right guys, so the time is here. We have just got to the spot where we're gonna camp all night. I'm here with my wife, Brittany, and yeah, I'm gonna get the car all set up here, but first we're gonna get into the numbers because that's gonna matter a lot for this one. As of course, my test is around extreme weather testing, so let's take a look. All right, first thing to note, we're starting out at 65% and it is 10:03 p.m. Probably gonna stay here till about 7 or 8 in the morning, so that's gonna be 9 or 10 hours that we're gonna be in camp mode here. It'll be interesting to see how this compares to my Keep Warm mode test. Of course, there's gonna be 2 of us in the car, but the car's gonna get more use. We're gonna do stuff like watch a movie. I brought a couple Xbox controllers, figure out how to pair those up and play some games. There'll be more use within the car, but also more of us in here putting off natural body heat, so it'll be interesting to see how that goes. As for the weather, it's going to be snowing for a lot of the night. It's going to be windy and pretty cold. So for now, not too bad at minus 15 Celsius. But as the night goes on, it's going to get to about minus 27 Celsius. So that is about minus 17 Fahrenheit. So it's going to be plenty cold out here overnight. And of course, the car is going to be keeping us warm. I think we're going to set it at 21 here for the night. So that's going to be right around 70 Fahrenheit. So now it's time to set the car into camp mode. Camp mode enabled. It will stay on until it reaches 20%. Sentry mode, sentry alarm, and walkway lock will be disabled. No sentry mode, but that's fine. We'll be in the car. And one more interesting thing I'm going to keep track of is the high voltage battery temperature. So right here on the sexy knob from Enhance Auto, I'll have this linked in the description. We can see the battery is currently at plus 12 degrees Celsius. So I'm really curious to see if it's going to keep it in the pluses or if this thing is going to get freezing cold overnight. So I'll keep an eye on that too. All right, so it's time to start setting up the car. It's pretty chaotic right now. Everything's piled in the back seats, but Brittany and I are going to be setting this thing up and I'll show what it looks like once we're done and then throw on a movie or something. This is a 2024 Tesla Model 3 long range all-wheel drive. So when I talk percentages of the car, that's based on it being that car. And in my Keep Warm video, I left the car out for 12 hours at temperatures a little bit colder than it'll be here today. And I used an average of about 3% per hour. I used 36% in 12 hours on that test. We'll be able to get some pretty comparable data here. However, not quite as cold throughout the night, but the peak will be as cold. And I am gonna keep the car at 1 degree warmer here. Since we're actually camping in it, since we'll have enough energy to spare, we might as well be comfy in it. Yeah. Figured why not. All right, so it's about 37 minutes in and we've already used 2%, but that's just initial. So we'll see how that ends up going as time goes on, but might as well start off with some games here. So what game looks like the best one to start out with?
Oh, definitely Solitaire, for sure. And this is a 1-player game, so you don't get to play.
Just like
and they have a
that,
T.
the Tesla deck of cards. All right, so we're at about 1 hour in here so far. Got some controllers set up and played a few games. Played some Boomerang Foo as well as some beach buggy racing and of course the Solitaire. But yeah, what really matters here is 4% down here in the first hour. That's quite a lot of drain here so far. However, the car is only saying 3.1%. Might be slightly off here somewhere, but this is going to be the gold standard here. So yeah, right on target. However, it is going to get a lot colder here throughout the night. So this might get worse, but we will see. I think now it's time for us to throw on a show and a movie and have some snacks. And also the high voltage battery is down to plus 10 degrees. So still plenty warm enough, but down from the start. And yeah, we're getting plenty of snow here. You can see it's coming down out there, but it's nice in the car. I think we're going to watch The Union. Looks like a decent movie, action movie with Mark Wahlberg. It'll be a good time to test out the speakers and the surround sound. 17 speaker system on the Long Range all-wheel drive I got here, so let's give it a watch. But first we got to check the numbers here. So at 61% and it's 11:15 p.m. So that's what we're starting out with. We're about halfway through the movie, but it's time to do a check-in here as we are after midnight now. So it's been about 2 hours. And at 57%, about 8% usage here in the first 2 hours. So we're actually pacing to do worse than the keep warm night, and that is when it was way colder out. Not sure what it is about camp mode, whether it's using the screen to watch movies and play games, which we've been doing for the last 2 hours. But yeah, 4% per hour here after 2 hours. We'll see how this ends up going, but that's how we're doing after 2 hours. And again, there's about a 1% discrepancy here, but yeah, screen time, 7.1% apparently. And nothing else is claiming to be using any power, which obviously I doubt since the climate's been on the entire time, so I'm not sure how that calculates, but yeah, still cool to see, I guess. And also the battery is still at 10 degrees, so obviously it's doing something to keep that battery warm. And yeah, I checked on the Sexy app and it shows the current amount of energy being used, and we're right at about 2.8 kilowatts. So that's pretty much what we're using here every hour, and I'll put what that looks like up on screen here too. DroneQuote EV Savings Calculator is an awesome tool to see what you could save by switching to an EV yourself. In this example, I'll use Texas, where the gas price is $2.72 a gallon and electricity price on average is 15 cents per kilowatt hour. In my example, I'm changed from a 2010 Honda Civic, I'll put that in here, and I changed to a 2024 Tesla Model 3 long range all-wheel drive. So you can see, for the cost of 1 gallon, I can get 64 extra miles in the Tesla. Once you've seen how much you'll save changing to your dream EV, you can also look into getting a free quote for a solar install at your property with DroneQuote by clicking this button right here, Get My Quotes. They work with local solar companies in your area and make sure you get the best price on a solar install. A link to this free calculator by DroneQuote will be at the top of the description or on screen in the form of a QR code. Thank you, DroneQuote, for sponsoring this video. They're going to try finishing the movie on the small screen in the back so I can lay down, as I can't move my seat back anymore since the seats are folded down and I am too tall, so it's kind of uncomfortable sitting up here for this long. And so I'm going to try it back there. Here's what it looks like. Yeah, not bad. Should be comfy enough, and I can just barely stretch out back there, so I'm going to head back there. All right, well, it's 12:45 and camp mode has just automatically kicked in the tent and fire, so that's cool. But yeah, setup is what it is. Time to go to bed, see how it goes, and of course I'll update. And of course I'll update everything in the morning with the numbers of how everything went, or also how good it or sucky it is to sleep in a Model 3 being 6'3" with another person. All right, well, I just woke up various times throughout the night. Wasn't that comfy. I'd recommend something better than a mattress topper laid across the seats. But yeah, I woke up this time to a notification that looks like this. And so yeah, we drained this thing down to 20% from 65%. So we're talking 45% usage there. And that was only 9.5 hours, basically 10, it's pretty close to 10. Compared to the 12 hours in my Keep Warm test where I only used 36%. And it was a little bit colder on that one. I'd have to say this is kind of surprising. A lot of comments on that video said that camp mode used way less, only a couple % per hour, but we used like over 4, almost 5% an hour here. So this is kind of shocking. And the high voltage battery pack is at 2 degrees, so it managed to keep that warmer all night. I'm assuming that used a ton, and I almost wonder if Keep Warm doesn't do that, if that was the difference here. Because yeah, that would have used a ton of energy to keep this thing warm all night. And yeah, we can see here 45% consumed in park, and it puts it all as screen time. Obviously that's not correct, but that's what it's showing me here. So kind of strange how fast that went down. There's still a plus to what we did here. You would never want to do this in a gas car because running the car all night would potentially cause carbon monoxide poisoning, whereas in here it's just electric, right? So you're totally safe to sleep in a car like this while it's running and keeping it warm. It was warm in here. I would say my feet got cold towards the back of the trunk. There wasn't a ton of airflow, and so it got cold in the back there. That's one thing I noticed, but everywhere else I was pretty nice and warm here considering how cold it is outside. All right, so time to drive this thing home and plug it in and see how much it costs to get back to our starting percentage. I'm working on the edit here, but I just want to mention, if you're thinking about a Tesla for yourself, make sure you use my referral link. That'll be in the description. You'll be able to save about $1,000 US, 1,300 Canadian. Who knows what it is if you live elsewhere. And I'll get a little kickback too for things like full self-drive or servicing my vehicle. I'll be documenting both of those things if and when I do them. And something interesting, we see the part of the battery is actually frozen out, and I hardly ever see that. So that's kind of interesting to see, especially because, yeah, the battery's still at positive temps. Thought that was worth throwing in. Home, and yeah, clearly we need to get this thing plugged in. 16%. Minus 26C is what the car is reading right now. All right, let's see if the charge port is frozen or not. It's crispy, but no problem. And it's charging. Battery is heating, keep charge cable inserted. Yep, and starting to ramp up slowly. So we'll see how long this actually takes. Plugged in at 16%. At 8:11 in the morning. And this is what the bed setup looked like from the trunk, at least. So yeah, not a ton of wiggle room, but it worked out long enough. All right, guys, and the official results, they're going to be up on screen here. I started off with 66% at 10:02 p.m., drained it down to 20% at 8:02 a.m. So that is exactly 10 hours, and I used 46%. This is noticeably worse than my Keep Warm test. I used 36.59 kilowatt hours for this, which ended up costing about $5.46. If we look at the charging up screen, of course I plugged in with 18%, slightly less than the 20, but that's because I had to drive home. I was pretty close to home where I parked for the camp out. It took me 5.5 hours to get back up to 65%, which was our starting percent. So that's what it takes on a level 2 charger when you do it from home. The cost was pretty similar, however, it's a little higher since it had to preheat the battery before it actually started taking a charge. But you can even see 92% of the power we used in that 5 hours and 31 minutes went into the car, and so it was a pretty efficient charge. If you look at that 38 and 41 number there for kilowatt hour, we ended up wasting about 3 kilowatt hours just getting the battery heated up and ready to charge. So not too bad, especially when you compare it to a level 1 charger, which I've gotten as bad as like 7%. It's brutal on the level 1 charger when it's trying to heat the battery all the time. So this is not too bad. I have to say I'm pretty shocked that I did this much worse on the camp mode, especially with 2 people in the car. You think that would sort of keep things warm, but is what it is, and that's why I'm doing these tests. Is this what you thought would happen? I have to say, I thought that based on the comments I was getting on my Keep Warm video, that camp mode was going to do a lot better, and this did quite a bit worse. And so I'm pretty surprised to see how much worse it actually ended up doing. Let me know in the comments if you're surprised at how bad the result I got was too. On the plus side, it's not too often you're going to camp in a car when it's minus 27 Celsius or minus 17 Fahrenheit. So there's that. I mean, it's never going to be as bad as this typically when you're camping. If it's in the summer, I could see this being so much better, and I fully intend on testing that as well in the summer, so stay tuned for that. If you stayed till the end here, I'd really appreciate a like on the video, maybe even a subscribe if you want to see more, and leave me a comment if there's any ideas you want to see me test. Thanks for checking out this video, and thanks to Drone Quote for sponsoring it. I'll see you on the next one.